Today we are going to be discussing local and global scope as well as constants. Okay, so that is an example of global scope. Okay, there's no indentation and the variable is not defined inside a function. Okay, I'm going to now make a function. Okay, so now you have a function here, display a number, and inside it, it defines another variable with the same name as what you've defined above. Now you'll see the editor will warn you to say that you are shadowing the name, and that's not a good practice. You should have different names. This is the purpose of demonstrating that there are two different variables, even though they have the same number. Okay, so I'm going to run that. You'll see. Okay, so outside, this is outside the function, and it displays the number 10. And then I call the function, and it displays the number 20. Okay, so this is totally two different variables, although they've got the same name. The one does not overwrite the other one. Okay, and this number is only available inside this function. Once the function comes to an end, this variable gets destroyed. Okay, so if you want to use a global variable inside a function, then you need to use the global keyword. But you only need to then use the global keyword if you are changing the variable in some way. You're updating it or modifying it or adding numbers to it or whatever the case may be. Okay, so I'm going to give it another demonstration here. I'm going to make another function. Okay, so there I've got a very simple function. It's just going to print the number. Okay, so it's going to read the global variable. Okay, I'm not changing it in any way, so it can read the global variable. So the global variable is visible inside the function. Okay, it can see it. So I'm going to run the function to show. Okay, so now you're inside. Now there it is where it's called it the first time. Yeah. Then it displays the 20, and now it calls this function here, and it's showing 10 again. So this number is the global variable, right? But as soon as I try and update it or change it in any way, you'll see it now complains, and it says you need to define this variable. So if I still want to update the global number inside this function, then I need to use the global keyword when I define it so that it doesn't throw that error. Now you'll see the error goes away. So now it's basically referencing this number, this global variable, in this function. And because you're updating it, you have to use the global keyword, otherwise it will throw an error. Okay. Okay, it's not advisable that you do things like that where you update global variables in this manner. It can create hard to find bugs. It's better to pass the variable in as an argument. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So in Python, there's no such thing as block scope. Other languages, when you declare a variable in a block of code, and the blocks of code are normally determined by opening and closing of parentheses, you don't have that in Python. So a variable that is defined in a block of code is a global variable. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. Okay, so I'm going to run that. Okay, so you can see it goes through the loop and it uses the counter that was defined outside the loop to count through and display the numbers. So this is a block of code. Okay, so when this block of code exits, these variables are still visible and they're still available. As you can see, I can print them both here. As you can see in the output, I printed 10 because the value of counter is now 10 after going through that loop. And the number that I declared in here overwrites the original number that I declared at the top there. It overwrites that and basically gives it just a new value. So it just puts a new value in there, and it is visible outside the block of code. So as you can see, there's no block scope in Python. Right, so now we're going to talk about constants. A constant is a variable that does not change throughout the life cycle of a program. So in Python, the naming convention for constants is to use uppercase letters. So examples of a constants are pi, or let's say gravity, and then they get used in the same way that you would use any other variable. Okay, so let's run that. Okay, so there's the output. Okay guys, so that's all for the tutorial today. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial on scope and constants. Please like and subscribe to the channel and have a great day. Cheers.